Welcome everybody. My name's Irene Pasternack, teaching Feldenkrais for the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. For all of you guys to see if we can make movement just a little easier and build your skill with movement so that you hold your own longer in terms of balance and comfort and stability. Today's class, based on what Merwin asked for last time, is going to be a posture related class. I think that's one that we're all interested in. And we'll be playing with rollers just to do something a little bit different with it. But before we dig into the lesson, I'd love to have a short discussion to hear what are the key things you're taking away, like the little nuggets, the concepts, the not the, oh, if I do these things, I feel this, but more like what are the concepts that you've been hearing? Scott.
Irene, I never knew I had a fourth toe.
Uh-huh. Never knew you had a fourth toe and that pad under the fourth toe and how important it is for your balance. Absolutely.
I think Sharon has a question.
Fourth toe, I keep saying it when I'm walking and when I'm doing some exercises. I never knew that my fourth toe was so important. I still don't feel it much, but I keep thinking, okay, if I keep talking about it to myself, that'll have an impact.
When it's in your mental map of yourself, your brain will use it. And so the mental map is shifting as a result of the class. Yeah, Jerry.
That there are options on how to move. There's different ways. And by trying different ways, you can make things easier.
Yeah, options and the curiosity to even try to make it better. It's not like it's inevitable. I have Parkinson's, therefore my movement's going to be challenging. It's there are ways to learn how to move differently. That paradigm shift, that like if you get nothing else out of the class but that's the most important piece. Because if you don't think to look for it, I was hired, oh boy, it's 30 years ago now, to come up to Alaska to teach all the federal workers how to get comfortable with the ergonomics of their computer system. And I asked people, there were 90 people in the room, maybe that was the Seattle class, but I asked them, how many people have ever adjusted their chair? And one person in the room raised their hand. It's like the idea that, oh, I could make my physical situation different was a new concept. And then here, this class is more, how I respond to it, can I make it different?
Yeah, what I've gotten out of it is that the part of my body that's having problem or pain is usually not the source of the pain or the problem. If I'm stuck here, it's usually, it's related to something up here. So I'm learning more to try to loosen other parts of my back, rather than focus just on the part that's bothering me.
That's another one of the key paradigm shifts, because that paradigm is very much related to what Jerry said. If something's not working for me, where do I look to try to change it? And not looking at the specific thing, but looking at the joints above it and below it and how force goes through that area. Yeah. Al. Let me Al, you're going to have to unmute yourself. It won't let me.
I also have the fourth toe. It just drops. And then if I walk on the carpet, it gets hooked. So the fourth toe is quite important.
So you have a different challenge with your fourth toe, and that communicating. So where you want to try to step is on the ball of the foot by the fourth, and figuring out how to lift that toe. Okay, that's something to play with.
Is that something you can explain to a newbie?
The fourth? Sure. So if this is the bottom of your foot, your heel bone points right to the base of your fourth toe. And if you get support from the floor by rolling your feet into the big toe, you don't get as much support. So if you sit there and roll both your knees in so your weight is on the inside, on the big toe, just feel what your upper body feels like when you're sitting. So how many muscles engage to hold you up. And then shift so your knees are nice and wide, and roll the weight out a little toward the fourth toe. And the torso just kind of goes, because it's supported from underneath. It's also important in walking, and we'll play with it in more lessons. We'll play with it a little bit today. But when people say the fourth toe, they don't mean the tip of the fourth toe. They mean the very root of the fourth toe at the joint between, oh, I've got a foot. Let me grab my foot.
Toe counting number one is the big toe.
Yeah. Let me turn it sideways. So the heel bone itself points out toward toe number 4. And this knuckle of toe number 4 is the spot where we get a lot of support from. When this is engaged, it builds the arch in the bottom of the foot so that you get bone support all the way up your body. If the weight goes into the big toe, besides causing bunions and a lot of foot pain, it flattens the arch. So sometimes people think, gee, I have flat feet, I just don't have an arch. But a lot of it is usage, and you can learn to have an arch, and being aware of the fourth toe is a piece of that process. It's but one of the other principles that nobody's mentioned yet that's a really important one is that we use big muscles to do big movement and little muscles to do little movement. So trying to control yourself from your fourth toe is difficult. It has a lot to do with what the sternum does and what the torso does. Today's lesson will work more with the upper body, which makes it possible to get the weight where you want it on your foot. Okay, good. All right, so now just in sitting now, we're gonna go into the lesson, and we always start with that scan at the beginning to go, how are we doing? So notice what posture you chose for sitting right now. And see, in this particular way that you're sitting, are you well supported? And what do you pay attention to go, am I well supported? Some of the things that we've played with are, in the position you're in, can you breathe in every direction? So when you take a breath in, does it go forward, backward, sideways, up and down? And using Jerry's comment of going, there are options. What could you do with your sitting right now to come into a place where you feel supported? We already talked this morning about your feet, somehow the connection to underneath the fourth toe, underneath the base of the fourth toe. And experiment a little bit. Sit in like the worst possible posture you could have right now. And what are some of the indicators that you're in a posture that you're not well supported? You might notice how far your chin is from your neck, how whether your head is tipped back or forward, whether your spine is curved sideways in some way. We've played with sit bones in this awful posture you just chose. Are you behind your sit bones? Kind of rolled back on the tailbone a little? Is your belly relaxed, or is it pulled in a little bit? And then come back to a posture where you feel more supported. And go through your checkpoints again. Where am I with respect to my sit bones? What are my feet doing? How's my breath? How far is my chin from my neck? Does the back of my neck feel long? We've also talked about posture. The definition of posture that Moshe Feldenkrais used was the ability to move in any direction without preparation. So in this place that you're sitting now, turn and look one way, turn and look the other. See, are you ready to turn? If you wanted to stand up from this place, would you have to do some preparation? How can you find a place to sit where you could just pop up to your feet? I see people trying it. That's one, you can try it. You can imagine doing it. Okay. And now go back to some habit of posture. You're waiting for something, and go into that posture and try turning and looking around yourself. Think about coming up to standing, and you realize you have to prepare. So come back to what feels to you like good posture at the moment, where you're ready for anything. Okay. And then come on up to standing. And notice what posture you choose in standing. And go through your own scan to go, how am I doing on my indicators? Where's my weight on my feet? Can I breathe in every direction? Where's my chin in relationship to my chest? What would it be like if I heard a noise coming from the right? Could I see what it was? What would I see if a noise came from the left? What would I have to do if I wanted to bend down and pick up something I dropped? Okay. Good. And in this posture that you've chosen at the moment, can you take a step to the side? How about the other side? Why'd you pick that first one first? How about a step forward or backward? To see how easy it is to step forward or backward. Okay. And then come and have a seat again. We're going to just use what we just did as measurement to see if it gets even clearer at the end, what it feels like to be in that ready for anything position. And we're going to sit with our roller, and you're going to put the roller lengthwise behind your back, just through your back. It doesn't need to go up to your head. So you need either, for those who came in late, either a yoga mat or a bath towel rolled up, or if you have a roller, that of course works too. It's a little challenging just getting it in there right in the middle. And there are two ways to sit with a roller. Well, there's probably 7,000, but the two I'm thinking of are you could either lean back against it like you were trying to squish it, or you could sit on your own sit bones and just be lightly touching the roller. So it's there as an awareness tool rather than as a support. And my husband, who's also a practitioner, when he teaches this idea of touching but not leaning, he says, pretend you were raising baby caterpillars and they were really cute and you wanted to keep it from escaping by touching it, but you didn't want to squish the caterpillar. So as you're leaning against the roller, you don't want to squish it. You just want to keep it in place, keep it from falling out. And it takes a little adjustment with your bottom for how far forward and back in the chair to be, so that your bottom is really tucked pretty far back in the chair. Okay. So now begin to look to the right. and come back. And going back to the idea that we have options in movement, let's see if we can find 5 different ways to look to the right. So you could look using your lollipop with a short stick, your cervical spine. You could turn your neck to look to the right. And as you do that, what do you sense? So just keeping your shoulders still, turning your head and neck, where do you feel it in the roller? Is there a little sense that the roller, some part of it, moves a little bit to one side, or that the pressure changes? Okay. We could roll to the right by taking our right shoulder backward. So try taking your right shoulder backward around the roller. And feel what surfaces of the roller does your back feel? If the roller had sensors in it, where does it feel your back contact it? Okay. We could roll to the right to look to the right by taking our left shoulder forward. Try that a few times. And see if that changes where you feel the pressure, the connection with the roller. You could imagine your back was coated in paint, and as you bring your left shoulder forward, where does your back paint the roller? Now, in the turning classes, we played with our sit bones, that you could move your right sit bone back and your left one forward. So your left knee would come forward, your left sit bone forward, and that also turns you to the right. Go very slowly, because you're interested in the paint on your back and the roller, not how far you can go, but just noticing what's different with each way of initiating. I think I have more than 5 to play with. Another way to do it is to think of your spine, and that your spine, you're pressing on the roller just enough so you can feel that there's a spine inside you. And if your spine had hands, or that it kind of grabs the roller and rolls around it. And then another way to look to the right is to stay just in the middle and just take your eyeballs to the right. And see if you can feel a response in the roller, in your back on the roller, from just your eyeballs going to the right. And do your eyeballs, when they go to the right, do they look a little down or a little up? So now take your eyeballs to the right, and once they're over there, look a little bit up and a little bit down. So go back and forth between up and down, and feel if where you press against the roller changes a little when your eyes are up or down. And come back to the middle. Let's take the roller out and rest for a moment. And as you're resting, stay with your knees wide and your feet resting out toward the fourth. And turn to the right now and see what it's like to turn to the right. It's a much more whole body motion as you're doing it. And get a sense of, with your eyes closed, just sitting here, does your posture feel better to you on the right or the left? There might be a difference in the distance to your chest between the right side of your chin and the left. When you breathe in, the air might go into one side better than the other. It's funny because these movement options we were talking about at the beginning, they can be tiny, tiny little differences. And just in using our back, like when your eyes are to the side going up and down and feeling those subtle little changes, that's what builds your brain's map of yourself so that more options come into play just naturally. And hang your arms down just next to the sides of your chair and see if your right shoulder feels different than your left. If one of them feels further from your ear, like your neck grew on one side. I have this Alice in Wonderland. It's like I'm lopsided. One side of my neck grew and the other didn't. Okay. And then just wiggle your eyes in their sockets and see, is there somehow more availability of wiggling to the right than to the left? Okay. Put the roller in again. And again, you're putting it in there like it was a captive caterpillar that you don't want to squish, because nobody wants squished caterpillar guts on their back, right? And besides, it's your pet. And make sure you're sitting with your knees wide, your feet having some connection to the fourth. And begin to play on the left with all the different ways you can think of to turn to the left. And the thing to be curious about as you turn to the left with different strategies is, how does your back interact with the roller differently depending on what you do? I have a fun new piece to play with that. If you reach forward as if there was a lily pad in front of you with a frog and you wanted to kiss a potential prince or princess charming on the lily pad. So bring your head kind of forward like a chicken pecking. And then in that forward position, try turning and see what that's like. Okay. And then imagine instead you go, I'm about to kiss a frog. Frogs are gross and slimy. I don't want to kiss a frog. And kind of that disgust, pull your chin back. Like, I'm not getting my nose anywhere near that thing. And then play with turning a little from that place that's back a little bit with your head. Does that let you touch the roller a little higher up when your head is back? And you could try it again with your head a little forward. Feel how it makes the pressure point on the roller go lower. And experiment. What can you do in your chest, in your chin, to move that rolling point higher and higher up your back? And then rest for a moment. Now leave your head still and take just your eyeballs to the left. And notice on this side, do they look down a little or up a little? And then bring your eyeballs to the left and go up and down with your eyes. Feeling how that changes where the pressure is on your roller. Is your tongue moving? You could help your eyes by taking your tongue with them. And then rest. Take the roller out. And see what the world is like on the left side of you. And how did you do at generating your own list of different ways to go to the left? Just the, do you have 2 or 3 favorite ways to go? And let's put the roller in, and I'm just going to run through some different strategies. See which ones you noticed and you were playing with on your own, and which are like, oh yeah, that one that I forget about. So you could take your sit bones and move your right knee forward and your left knee backward, so your sit bones move in your chair a little. You could lead this by your spine grabbing the roller and turning. And experiment. You've got 24 vertebrae. Which ones can you, we never can feel them exactly, but see how many different places in your spine you could lead the movement by sensing the roller in that spot, grabbing it with your spine and turning. Now, there's another suggestion. Marilyn was on early and she suggested, I think, Bill, it was you who asked a week or 2 ago about rolling over in bed. Marilyn's suggestion was put your arm straight out in front of you. So put your right arm in front of you. And with your right arm in front of you, turn around your roller by bringing your right arm across your body. And feel, and look to the left. So your right arm goes to the left, and feel how much moving your arm across twists your spine. You can really feel the pressure on the roller. So the first thing in bed when you want to roll over is make sure that arm comes across yourself, because that just naturally twists your spine and begins to tuck the bottom side under so you can roll. So everybody, hang your hand like this so that your wrist is relaxed, but it's kind of at shoulder height. And look at your wrist as you bring your arm across yourself. And feel how that makes your sit bones grab and engage a little bit, that it really helps you use all of yourself. Good. Let's try that a little bit to the other side. So first, don't do the arm, and turn and feel how much of yourself engages with your roller. So turning to the right, just seeing how much engages. And then put your right arm, your left arm in front of you and reach over to your right. And feel if you get a little bit more of like your buttocks get involved in the turn, a little more bigger muscles. And having your head and your eyes go with it to follow that hand is a big step of bringing the rib cage around under you. Okay, you can pause for a moment just with the roller in there. And check in with yourself. Do you have that light grip that's going to prevent the caterpillar from escaping on the roller? And go the tiniest bit you can to know that you're rolling around the roller to the right. And then come back and the tiniest bit to the left. And each time you get in the middle, stop there. And what are the sensations with your back on the roller that tell you, I'm in the middle, I'm not in the middle? So I can see some of you moving. I'd like you to try moving so small that I couldn't even see you moving. So it's just like a 1/16 of an inch, a 32nd of an inch. What's the smallest movement you could make? It might be just your eyeballs move a little to the right or the left. To feel what's left, what's right, and what's in the middle. And notice which part of your back do you feel on the roller? Do you have a particular vertebrae that you're using as your middle sensor? And shift it. Try going down a little bit. You might have to lean forward a little so that a lower spot on your back does, and then turn from there so that you have a different middle sensor. Tiny little motions. Or you could press your shoulders back a little so that a spot between your shoulder blades is your middle sensor. And see, do your shoulder blades move a little? As you go around, when you're somewhere up between the shoulder blades is the sensor, is there a way that your shoulder blade, as you turn to the right, kind of pushes into the roller? And as you turn to the left, your left shoulder blade pushes in. And let that get a little bigger. So you could imagine your two shoulder blades are two kids, and they're rolling a ball back and forth between them from one side to the other. So you have to figure out how to sit in order to get that spot on the roller. And then the shoulder blades become a little more active, and when they roll the ball back and forth, do they roll the ball straight across, or does it feel like the ball goes down a little bit toward your spine in each direction? Could they roll the ball so it went up a little bit? That requires a little side bending in the ribs. Take the roller out. Let's stand up for a moment just to do something different. Shake out any tension that might be growing from this. And now squeeze your shoulder blades together just gently, just like bringing your arms around, and see if it's not gonna work. If there's just a little bit more movement in your torso, it's feeling a little looser. And put your arm up again and reach around for something on your right side and reach around for something on your left. If your apples were ripe, how ready are you to shift your weight and reach for an apple in every direction? Maybe one that's a little higher, maybe one that's a little lower. You got a dwarf apple tree. Yeah. Okay. And then come back and sit down. We're going to take our roller and this time put it behind your back. So not vertically this time, sorry, horizontally behind your back. And it's funny how we each have a place that we go, oh yeah, that's what she means, that's behind my back. It's like our definition of back, and some of it's going to be based on your chair. For me, if I move it up too high, there's no chair there, so that doesn't work. But just wherever you've put it behind your back, try and roll over it forward and backward a little bit. Just trying to not move it up or down the chair, but just rolling over it. And feel what happens in the back of your neck and the front of your neck. Okay, good. And move it down an inch. And roll over the roller. Again, sensing how your head and body counterbalance. When do you push into your feet a little bit to move this around your roller, to move your body around your roller? Try and inch down. It's funny, isn't it? There's some spots that are easier than others, or easier to go over it rather than under. Go back up to where you started. Try that spot again. See if it's gotten a little easier. It's just this tiny bit. And now with this spot, you can go over the roller or under the roller. How do you know what's the neutral in between? So what's the sensation in your body that you're going back a little further than neutral and neutral, and down a little and then back up to neutral? And then if your chair allows you to go up a little higher, keep experimenting going up your back. This is fun to play with on a wall. I'm going to leave that part to your own experimentation afterwards, but leaning against the roller on the wall and just very lightly, this isn't stretching, it's not strengthening, it's telling your brain, there's options in this vertebrae. The way that I hold myself isn't the only way, that there's other possibilities. All right. And then when you've explored the range that your chair allows you to, put your roller in vertically again. And sit in that position where your knees are wide, your thighs are rolled out a little bit so that your feet could connect under the base of the fourth toe. You can breathe. And when you breathe, where do you press into the roller when you breathe in? Where do you lighten away from the roller when you breathe out? And is there a little bit more of the roller touching your back touching the roller than there was earlier? Notice the distance between your chin and your chest. It may have come back a little bit. And now grab the roller with as much of your spine as you can. Like think of 4 or 5 vertebrae in different places, all grabbing the roller, and the vertebrae spin, and that takes you around. And 4 or 5 different vertebrae on the other side, the highest one, the lowest one you can feel, and 2 in the middle. Grab the roller, and they spin. And take the roller out. Sometimes this sensing the little stuff is more tiring than doing the big movements. I'm seeing a couple of people's faces going, enough. So if your brain is totally full and whatever, feel free to just watch for this next part. We're going to do one more little series of movements with the roller vertical. Again, notice if there's a little bit more of the roller touching. This for me is my first time I noticed, my tailbone is actually, my sacrum, the triangular wedge in the back of the pelvis is touching it. When we walk, we've talked about how the spine counter rotates and the shoulders go one way and the hips go the other. So see if you can find that on the roller. If you take both elbows and bring them around to your right side, if anybody has paddled a canoe, you can imagine you've got a canoe paddle in your hand and you're paddling it on the right side of your body. And as you're canoeing on the right side, turn your hips to the left a little. And feel how your body wraps around that roller. And then switch your paddle onto the left side and turn your hips to the right. And just slowly go back and forth with your paddle and your hips going the other direction to feel that diagonal wrap around the roller. And feel as you do that, see if you can keep both of your feet where the weight's under the fourth toe. When your hips twist, so some of you are on wheelie stools. This is easy if you're on the stool like an office chair that spins. If not, getting the hips to go is a little bit more conscious movement of sliding a sit bone forward. But that sensation that the roller is to the left on one half of you and to the right of your spine on the other half. Because that sense of paddling, you go ahead and try and get a rhythm going with your paddle. Now it's a kayak paddle that has two blades on the side, so you don't have to move your hands on it. You can kayak one side and the other. And feeling that roller against your back. That's the sensation we're looking for in walking, is that twistiness. Okay. Take the roller out and come on up to standing. And walk around a little. And see what might feel different in your walking. How long your strides are, how your arms are swinging. And then come to standing and see what posture you choose right now in standing. And do some of your measurements. How easy is it to step to the left and the right? To step forward and backward. To reach for something. What's it like in the place you're standing to breathe in? If you imagine bouncing a basketball, what would it be like to bounce your basketball right now? And experiment with lifting your heels, lift both heels and drop them a little bit. And feel how your body counterbalances as you do that. And then try and do that faster, where you lift and drop, lift and drop, lift and drop. And stay in the position where you can do that and bounce your basketball. And feel how your body has a little bit more up and down to it. That's the readiness position, where your posture is enabling you to move. And from that little bit forward position, try stepping sideways. And forward and back. Okay, good. Now stand up the way you might have thought good posture is. Roll your shoulders back. Think about the book on your head. I don't know what other tips people gave you. And in that position, try and take a step sideways. And it's like, you can't, you have to prepare in order to do it. And go back into that shoulders back, kind of rigid posture, and try and take a step forward. Or reach for your apple. And then lift your heels a time or two. and go back to seeing how easy is it to move in any direction. Yeah. Okay. Then come back and have a seat. And what map changes did today's lesson do in your brain? What did you feel different afterwards? Did you discover any new parts of your back that were unfamiliar to you?
I like the subtlety of which the movements, I can take teeny movements and feel it.
Yes, and it's interesting, isn't it? When you do the subtle movements, you can feel more.
Yeah.
Yeah, big movements, we don't have the same sensitivity to. Yeah, that's one of the core tenets of Feldenkrais, is that we slow down and move more subtly in order to sense more. And that builds the map. And then when you go back to your daily life, you're going to be moving fast. You know, you're cooking dinner, you want that out of the refrigerator. But because your brain had the opportunity to sense the subtleties, it rewires the brain's connection to ourself, so that then you can aim better when you're moving fast. Okay, somebody else had their hand up. Jerry.
The concept of the vertebrae grabbing the towel, I've never thought about individual vertebrae before.
Yes, there are 24 of them, and that means I don't know how many joints that is, but each one there's a joint on the top and the bottom, and that gives you quite a bit of degrees of freedom of movement, and that each one of them can be in control. I'm looking to see. No, I don't have my prop here. But each vertebrae has like a little wing that goes out to the side that muscles attached to. So you could think of each vertebrae as like a motorcycle steering wheel, and you could steer your back by turning the handlebars. So thinking about each vertebrae as a little mini motorcycle handlebars for turning yourself. And when I think of my vertebrae as having the wings and being a little wider, not just like a spool of thread, but a spool of thread with wings, my movements become more powerful in my back, because it's building the mental map that there's something that the muscles attach to for pulling it around. Bill.
Yeah, I feel a little more balanced when I'm doing this, so it helps a lot.
Good.
Kind of living in slow motion sometimes helps.
Yeah. If it's going to happen, you might as well find a way to make it help, right? Bill.
I notice all my vertebrae don't touch, so I guess I can't be in the military.
Our spines have curves in them, so nobody's spine will every vertebrae touch. The roller allows more of them to touch because there's a softness to it. So don't beat yourself up because they don't all touch. Yeah. Are there comments? Alrighty. Well then, let's leave it there for today, and we will continue with something on Thursday. I haven't decided what. If anybody has any requests, this is a good time to mention them.
I notice that when I have the roller in, it forces me up on my sit bones.
Yes.
Instead of rolling back on my tailbone.
I've had some clients that after they play with this lesson with the roller, they decide that they want to get a bolster, kind of like the one Sharon had. I don't know if you want to hold it up again, Sharon, so people could see it, but she has this bolster on her bed. But if you take that bolster and just stick it behind you in whatever chair you're in, it will help remind you to keep yourself up on your sit bones. And it also, we've talked in other lessons about the fabric, the sense of the width of the front of yourself versus the back. When you have that roller in there, it helps us remember that this front part can stretch out a little bit. It helps rebalance it. So yeah, take that and go with it. And yeah. Alrighty, I'm going to stop the recording.